What is up, Dan? It's Highway, you beautiful individuals. It is another RPF League Unlock here. Mark, here with you. Beautiful individuals for the main course, the surf and turf. It is the world's top 20 players. We're doing part 1, 20-11 ahead of the World Championship. And as always, I have to reiterate again and again, these are rankings heading into the World Championship. Do we think some of these will stand at the end of the tournament? No, probably not, because guys play differently at Worlds than they do domestically, yada, yada, yada. But heading into this event, this is how we feel about these players, which is an early defense for what some of these rankings will look like.
You know, you call this the surf and turf, or the preparation, the look-ahead previews for the World Championship. Everybody loves doing their top 20 players. I call this the appetizer. This, to me, is that perfect steakhouse salad, the iceberg wedge lettuce, whatever type of, preferred leafy greens that you've got on the side. I'm calling it that because, for me, I love going back to this list after the World Championship, seeing which ones you nailed, who was climbing higher, who's disappointed. That type of conversation is what I like a little bit more, but still a fun task in front of us today, jumping through these hoops, jumping in to the pool that is these players and how they performed this year and how that stacks up against what we know about them throughout their career, the expectations, all sorts of things like that. Always a fun exercise to jump into.
And that list is usually very different when you do it post-tournament, as you would expect. But you don't have to look any further than number 20 on this list, because I know people will be pulling their hair out. You go, Canyon. This is a guy who, previous Worlds, you've got in the top 3 heading into these events. But again, I know Gen G just won, but I think you're not watching with glasses if you don't think that Canyon was the weakest Gen G member of this title team, and he has been far removed from the last split and a half from that World Championship level Canyon.
It's one of those ones where I think it's finding what is the truth, what is the reality, because there is some drop in performance from him from a career standpoint on what you expected from him, what he has built himself up to. And then I think on an individual level, when you were talking about what you want, what you would have expected from the Gen G jungle position and how things went out this year. Yes, I think this is a point where Canyon can be slotted in to a position like this, and one of those ones where has the potential to, at the end of it, either be the most foolish of rankings to put him this low on a list like this and what he will end up outputting for a squad like Gen G, or it's simply going to be, I think at the end of the day, the reality of where we are with Canyon at this point in his career and where the performance is for this year with Gen G from him.
And they've won titles, obviously, with him playing like this, but if they want to win Worlds, then they'll need Canyon to, yes, be leveling up and soaring through these rankings. And as you'll see on this list, we're highly valuing, every time you do these, you've kind of got to juggle, okay, well, how are you valuing roles, right? Do you need more mid laners? There's usually less supports. This year, it really feels like jungle is an incredibly impactful role, number 1. And number 2, there are some insane junglers at this event. Case in point, Peanut coming in that 19 spot, who obviously had an incredible series against T1 and Owner, but has also had some classic Peanut moments. And if you were including the Last Dance buff, well, then he's into top 10, right?
Yeah, that would be a mega buff. We've already seen that one come through for a couple players before, at the very least, getting them to that finals of the event. So certainly one to keep track of here with Peanut in that Last Dance scenario situation. I think this is one where, again, you would maybe accept either swap in them, but I think this is more so a comment to me on how good Peanut has been this year, because there are so many of these previous 2, 3, 4 years where Canyon has been clearly ahead of a guy like Peanut when you are talking about a rankings like this in any sort of MSI World Championship type of scenario. It's a different story this year, and different story with how things have played out for this Hanwha Life team, and specifically for me through that playoff run and the type of form that we did see from Peanut, the way that he is working with the rest of this team. I think that is the type of form that you want to see from him heading towards an event like this one.
And obviously smites are something we talk about Peanut as well, but he there's definitely, at two ends of the spectrum. He's either incredible or is kind of a liability for the squad. The consistency is not what it has been in years past, and truthfully, that's kind of the epitome of Peanut's entire career, going on different teams he's been on. He's either absolutely elite or you're kind of head scratching, wondering when that last stance is. But we've definitely got both edges of that sword, but more so the better side so far here in Split 3 for Hanwha Life. Ahead of those two guys, we get our first AD carry on the list, and similar to Canyon, Elk is a guy who we've talked about at that absolute S tier of AD carry in the LPL, and I think he's still there. But again, in years past, we've been talking about him fervently a lot more, being one of, if not the best AD carry in the LPL. He's still been fantastic, but not at that absolutely top tier elite level that we've seen in 2024 especially.
He's been an 8.5, 9 out of 10 at times in the LPL, but you are waiting to hit that 9.5, that 99, that 100 type of territory that he is capable of. And when we've seen that from him is when BLG is at their absolute most lethal, most firepower stocked behind them. When Elk is able to play like that, I think one of the ones that I'm looking at throughout this meta and where we are going to find his power picks, the Lucian is certainly one of those ones that you would be favoring towards the Xayah as well. Still one of these options that I think that he can be very proficient on and would be looking to prioritize if you are one of these squads. But for me, still someone that has got a lot of firepower in the tank, and one, if he's performing at his very best, is going to be at a higher point when we're revisiting this list. But right now, I think what we've seen from him, what we know is ahead of us, the monsters that we can talk about, gotta feel settled here in this spot.
Still one of several lethal bullets in the BLG chamber that can completely turn a team fight that you have no business winning, which is what we saw them doing. Multiple guys on that squad throughout that 2024 run when they were incredibly dominant. Again, a theme on this list is going to be a lot of junglers getting talked about, and I know this will be a spicy, controversial one in the 17 spot. And again, we reiterate, Inspired has not had a better career than Canyon, is not a better all-time jungler than Canyon. Yes, he's played in a weaker region, he's beaten some Brazilian teams to get here, but heading into ranking right now to this World Championship, I think you'd be kind of crazy to say that Canyon is playing at a higher level than Inspired right now.
I think you'd be just flat out wrong if you said that Canyon is playing at a higher level than Inspired is right now from what we have seen from this FlyQuest jungler, not just, I think, in recent form, but as well, you could go back to halfway through the year, 3/4 through the year, the whole year, whatever you want to put it through. I think you can throw Inspired into a list, into a group like this in a pool where he doesn't seem out of fits, out of sorts to me with the way that he has been playing. I'm looking at huge performances on the Wukong, Trundle, all these Xin Zhao. These picks have been real power movers, real power picks for him, as well as somewhere that we also know that he's busted up the meta a little bit more expanded than we have seen him in previous years. And I think that type of angle as well is going to be something for FlyQuest, where he will be, again, one of the biggest drivers of that engine that you can look at and look for from the jungle position. He will be that for FlyQuest.
And I think, again, I've kind of forgotten about point for him is just how integral he is to the overall playstyle, macro communication of FlyQuest. He is the captain running this ship. There's no question about it. I think you would ask anyone on the team, they would say. If you listen to any of the comms, you would say. And if you just watch any of the gameplay, it's glaringly obvious that almost every aspect of FlyQuest's game runs through him.
And it's been that way for the last, year and a half now that he's been with the organization and really leading that charge in the position. Again, talking about those champions that he can pick through. I don't think he likes to play it, but still a very good Maokai player as well to keep track of. And then adding in the extra dimensions, right? Adding in the extra off-meta picks like we've seen with the Tryndamere jungle coming on through. Now, I don't know. We're going to see that one on the international stage. But again, the type of things that you got to keep in mind. And if you're going back, even adding in some of the leftover flavor of last year, busting out the Nunu and making things difficult for the LCK, I think Inspired certainly earned his spot on this list.
You know he's going to have some kind of Nunu-esque pick ready at some point. Probably later in the tournament to pull out when it's desperation time for FlyQuest and the boys. But I know he's going to be cooking something up. We know the first member of T1 on this list is always cooking something up, the bigger the match. And we are talking about Gumayusi in the 16th spot. And we're going to save everyone the heartbreak right now. Faker is an honorable mention. Faker is not on this list. We kind of cut down a lot of the mid laners coming into this because the top 3 mids are so damn good coming into this year. So Faker, again, it's legacy, not kind of being accounted for. This isn't for the career. This is just rankings coming into this event. But Guma still was Mr. Consistent. Even in that Hanwha series where they kind of got smashed, he was doing his best to keep T1 in that series.
The Faker one quickly on a little note is simply just more so a thing. Again, yes, the prioritization of where your current stats performance form is at the moment, and it doesn't take into account the X factor that Faker truly and uniquely brings to Summoner's Rift, the game-breaking playmakers that he is able to dish out in the most crucial and clutch moments. Doesn't always show up in those numerical statistical type of ones where a list like this is mostly built or, strengthened off of when you're looking at things like that. And that's where a player like Guma is able to step into the spotlight for T1 and take charge like this. This has been one of those years where, frankly, I don't know how people needed it, but he certainly dished out the reminder of what type of key contributor he is for this T1 organization. I'm looking at right now, again, the way the meta has been and really been prioritized for him is looking at that Sivir pick, the utilization of that one, what it provides for him individually with the spell shield and what is out there on the enemy team, and then how it's combining with the team fights later on for T1. I think that is one of the ways that it is being utilized very strongly. Guma, that's where I'm looking, and that's where I think the priority is going to be for T1.
Yeah, the meta seems actually really good for him, especially if you remove Ziggs from the equation. I don't want to see Guma on Ziggs. I don't want to see anyone on T1 on Ziggs. I don't want to see them playing against Ziggs. That is the kryptonite, and it's very clear as day for them in that matchup. But outside of that, the other strong staple picks in the meta seem right up Guma's avenue to take over and take T1 into that promised land. 15th spot, we get to the first support on this rankings. And again, similar to mid lane, it's kind of very top heavy, where, as we alluded to when we did the position rankings, top half of support is very skewed. And we begin with Mr. Delight on Hanwha Life, who has been a delight for the majority of the time to watch on Hanwha Life. And I think we saw him level up again, as did the whole squad throughout this playoff push for HLE.
I think this is a good, leveling up in his own career to get a recognition like this at this type of point and seeing where he has been and what thing. And I think the best thing for me is I don't think I need to go all that crazy in telling you the importance, the value that he has brought to this team, to that bot lane in specific for Hanwha Life. He has shown that throughout this year, throughout the ups and downs of this team, he has shown you his importance. And when he is in that crucial clutch factor mode, delivering these playmaking setups that you want from your support alongside someone as high powered as Viper, Delight has been able to step into that role and deliver then and some for the Hanwha Life fans.
And I think going from maybe being a question mark onto Gen G, now we've seen him kind of step into that trusted veteran role with the rest of a incredibly veteran lineup of Hanwha Life, and see that confidence when he's talking about, when he's doing engages, when teams are listening to him and trusting him. And that's something that, it's hard earned, especially in the LCK when you have now Mr. Veteran in Peanut and guys who are world champions under their belt.
And I still think the most nasty, most egregious mistake you will make against this Hanwha Life team is not banning away this guy's Rakan. There's a lot of threats on that Hanwha Life team. I'm aware of it. We'll talk about more of those threats on this Hanwha Life team. But leaving that type of threat open, still the best Rakan in the LCK in my eyes.
And there's a couple other picks you're probably terrified of matching up against Hanwha Life. But yeah, Delight. Rakan, definitely near the top of that table. Number 14 on this list is one of the ones I'm most excited to talk about, partially because a few weeks ago, at least a month or two ago, I would have been dreaming to think that KT and BDD would be at this event at all. And BDD, I feel like early on in the split, we were talking about this crazy level that he was at, and I didn't think this was sustainable for more than a couple of weeks, but actually reached new heights in that Gen G upset, which got them this spot at Worlds, and BDD has maintained this insane level throughout this entirety of the split. I know you can throw Cuz in there. He's probably on the bubble of being near a top 20 list, but obviously BDD has been the X factor for KT and the main reason why they're at this event at all.
Gotta give our man his flowers for obviously the whole of this year, but especially even earning a trip to the World Championship. But yes, in doubt for so much of it, given the positioning and power that we had seen from this KT Rolster team. But what had never been questioned was BDD. And I think one of the things that is kind of the nice comparison alongside it is we had the Rise and Legends group and how difficult it was sledding against the Hanwha Lights, the Gen Gs, the T1s at that very top. That's just every single day for BDD, living in the LCK with Faker, Chovy, Showmaker, everybody, and who else wants to be the most recent challenger. Everything has been thrown his way, and he still has stood the test of time, still stood his ground within this group, this standing of legends, and here we are talking about him heading towards the World Championship again. Give him a control mage, something that has that type of agency, that type of ability to scale up and have effect on the game, and you're not going to be disappointed with what he is going to put out there for your squad.
And one of the best guys, not just on this list, but all time, to not have a World Championship under his belt. Not about to say KT's making a run to finals or anything, but at the very least, individually, you're confident in BDD more than holding his own in any mid lane matchup, even against the best of the best heading towards this tournament. You want to talk best of the best, and it's, again, we alluded to Keria being knocked off that top pedestal of supports when we did those rankings, but that doesn't mean there are some permabans who should come his way. We're talking probably the Bard first and foremost. We've already seen him style on North America with that pick in Worlds past.
Yeah, and I think that is certainly the number one on a lot of people's minds right now, but you can't be forgetting about the creativity that comes through from someone like Keria. Of course, we've seen the Pike become more so an angle in certain other people's pocketbooks as well, but I don't think anybody's bringing the heat or the lethality the way that it is in the hands of Keria in that bottom lane right now. He has been phenomenal for T1 throughout the entirety of this year. I think still one of these ones where it's hard to have that conversation because, yes, dethroned as the number one, you would be assuming that he's either underperformed, there's something in there. It really isn't about him individually. I think he is still bringing that excellent value. That's still AA plus type of performance for T1, and his creativity, I think there's just another level that we get to talk about, which is an exciting thing for me.
The Bard might be first on the list, but this is like a Santa Claus level list of asking for gifts with what this guy is capable of doing. And, we maybe have seen him be a little less impactful at times in 2025, especially split 3 or rounds 3 to 5 in the LCK. But, I mean, Keria on some of his bad days is like a top 3 support in the LCK. Like, the floor for this guy is so much higher than most people, especially when you're talking about supports. The floor for the number 12 guy on this list is pretty low, but the ceiling is maybe picking up MVP of the LPL. JackeyLove returning, world champion, returning to Worlds again with Top Esports, and we saw it again in playoffs against BLG. Some absolutely immaculate team fighting out of the sky.
You laid it out as perfectly as you could right at the very beginning. I don't think anybody has a floor nearly as low as what JackeyLove.
It's a basement, like a deep basement, yeah.
In the very off occasion, I'll give him that, very off occasion has delivered to his fans, unthankfully. But yes, we are stepping into JackeyLove at this position because of what he offers when he's on, when he's popping off, when he is dishing out that damage for Top Esports. This is a player that deserves this caliber of ranking when you're looking at a world champion type of list. JackeyLove can deliver it. I don't care what champion you want to throw him on. Hyper carry, scaling carry, lane bully, whatever. Awesome dude. I don't care what it's going to be. he's going to dish out the damage, and he's going to be there for top esports. He has been there throughout the entirety of this year, the ups and downs of this top esports team, and he is going to be there when it is knocking on the door time for top esports at this World Championship as well.
And I think the synergy with him and Hong actually developed a lot quicker than at least I was anticipating. You know, he's gone through such a revolving door of support partners over his time, mainly on TES. I mean, you know, we always meme about Baolon, but it usually takes a little time to get things rolling. But pretty much from the get-go, they were a lethal bot lane in the LPL and even in team fighting. The peeling that Hong does for JackeyLove, he knows, recognizes what his mission is in these fights, and they execute it to absolute perfection. So really excited to see the TES bot lane duo at this World Championship. Really excited to see, I believe, the only guy making his World's debut on this list to be in the top 20, and that is Duro over on Gen G. Again, deserving of that top ranking support role if you've watched the last 3 months of LCK.
Yeah, you would not need to be convinced at all if you've seen anything over the last month, I'll say, of the LCK and what his role has been and how it has expanded for this championship caliber Gen G team. That's the important thing to keep track of, and as you laid out, the inexperience, the rookie status that he is carrying into this event. A lot of people, again, that's going to be a little bit of an X, a little bit of a detractor, minus sign on him. I think that there's more than enough of the pluses, more than enough good in his corner that will convince you of him deserving this type of spot. The big plays, the little plays, he's made it all for this Gen G team. I think that the biggest thing for me is that not only has he brought it for everybody, you know, working with Chovy, working with Keen, working with everything that's going on with Canyon, but really for me, it's about how he's played with Ruler. Because for me, Ruler stepped into this lineup and there was some uncertain footing as far as the type of performances and what role he would be playing. Duro immediately stepped up his performance, his contribution, his impact on the team, and everything slotted into place for the rest of this Gen G team, and especially that power player in Ruler. And for Duro, I think that's got to be extra points in his corner.
And it's not like this guy's coming in green internationally. I know Worlds is a different beast entirely, but this is a guy who's already won MSI, won a little Mickey Mouse at EWC. He couldn't make it to the Asia Invitational because he's a little too busy heading to his first ever World Championship. But that is it today for League Unlocked. This is only part 1. We got a whole part 2 of 10-1 for these top 20 players, but we will catch you on that flippity.